In 1586, the Pope Sixtus V directs the obelisk to be re-erected in the colonnaded square before the Basilica of St. Peter's. In fact, the 83 feet tall obelisk stood on a spot 50 feet from the left outside wall of today's St. Peter's Basilica. The task was assigned to Domineco Fontana. Hi, I am Hilal Alam from ALZEBRA. Why is Domineco Fontana known as the first civil engineer? Was there none to have built any great structures before him? Yes, there are many geniuses much before him have built great structures like Parthenon, Colosseum, Thanjavoor Big Temple and Pagodas. In this episode, let us see why Fontana is called as the first civil engineer. The obelisk was originally erected at Julian Forum in Alexandria around 20 BC by the Emperor Augustus. Later, the Emperor Caligula in 37 AD ordered it to transported to Rome on a specially built ship and erected in the Spina of Vatican Circus or Circus of Nero, what is now the Vatican City. It had been standing there for nearly 1,600 years without any intervention. After the Pope's order, it had to be moved by 800 feet. Fontana was assigned to the job. This was the first obelisk to be re-erected in the modern times. The process needed the red granite obelisk to be laid down nearly for 4 months. Fontana realized that keeping 330-ton giant obelisk flat was not easy as it appeared. It might develop cracks in due course of time. Fontana wanted to study the past history of re-erection of obelisks. He collected a huge pile of data from the history of moving obelisks across Egypt. He found that keeping on a flat surface would have ended in a disaster, for slow erosion on the ground might lead to unbalanced forces that would lead to cracks on the surface of the shafts. End support would have been the worst idea. One thing was clear, most of the displacement processes were ended up in utter failures. Hence, he decided to analyze the obelisk by dividing into many parts. He might have probably got some clues from his contemporaries like Galileo and used some of ideas from Da Vinci. I'm not sure about it. He then carefully identified the support points and applied the data from his rich collection of the past history. Finally, the obelisk was tilted down and kept on the stack of wooden platform with the supports properly spaced. Then the entire structure was carefully moved and re-erected at where it is today. He is known to be the first to apply the analytical mechanics in the field of architecture, and thus to earn the title the first civil engineer. Fontana has documented every detail of the design and analysis in his book Delta Transportational. He was probably the first to use data of 1,000 years to apply in the process. Shall I safely call Fontana the first data science engineer as well? Ever since Fontana re-erected the obelisk, it is majestically standing there for nearly 500 years, attracting pilgrims and tourists to visit. Thank you very much. See you next week.